We started doing virtual tastings. Geez, I think our first one was back in 2017. And 2020 was kind of the year that forced us into doing these on a regular basis. But we've actually found them to be such a terrific way to connect with members that are close and far away. And, many people, like the Keelers in Minnesota, they've never been out to see us. Never. But it gives them an opportunity. Yeah. What's that?
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah, right.
But it gives them an opportunity to virtually connect with us and really meet Ashley, who makes the wines, who Hawes, our wine club coordinator, who's the person behind all the emails and organizing your shipments and getting them ready and out to you on time and in good shape. And being able to meet Vicky and Mike, who this is their baby, Amista, that they started. So we love it. It's really a great way to connect and to keep our friendship alive. So we thought that we would start off by everybody raising a toast with the sparkling Grenache. And then I want Ashley to tell everybody about the 2019 growing season, because as you well know, each season brings on new opportunities and new challenges. And then we'll talk about the sparkling Grenache. That was music to my ear.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Ashley. I'm the winemaker for Amista. And, every vintage is a little bit different, like Robert was saying. So 2019 was a pretty warm growing season. So our growing season counts from about March and then until we pick the grapes. But going into that, it was a pretty dry winter. We did have a few big storms, but overall rainfall was down a little bit. 2018 was a really big crop. We got a lot of grapes in 2018. Usually that means maybe the next year will be a little bit lighter of a crop, but that wasn't the case in 2019. We had two big harvests in a row. But yeah, the growing season was quite warm. Things still, after August, even though it was hot, things did hang on the vine a little while longer than say like 2016 or 2017. So we got a little bit extra time on the vine. But yeah, there were no inclement weather events until later, but all our grapes were picked. And, no spring frost or anything like that. So it was a really good growing season, but definitely warm. Dry Creek is typically known for its foggy summer mornings. And 2019 was a very low fog year, which was really unusual for us. So we got lots of direct sunlight, and I think that sort of translates into the flavors that you're going to taste in the wines. So, they're bigger, a little more expressive, really fruit driven, but pretty delicious. So should we start tasting the sparkling Grenache?
Sure.
We already did.
We don't have it, unfortunately.
We just have the reds.
But you'll have to let us know how it is. We don't have it.
Oh, no.
That's okay.
We only have the red wines.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
The sparkling Grenache is one of my favorite sparklings that we make. All of our sparklings come from our estate property, as most of you know. They're all made in the traditional method champenois. That means every bottle is an individual fermenter. So, we pick the grapes, we press the juice off of the skins of the grapes, and it ferments in a stainless steel tank, and then it goes to bottle. And that bottle is where it stays until we drink it. And it goes to bottle with a little bit of sugar and a little bit of yeast. And the yeast consume the sugar under pressure. So there's a crown cap, like a beer cap on the top of the bottles. And by consuming that sugar, they release CO2 and a little tiny bit more of alcohol, but a pretty negligible amount at that point. And that's what creates all of the bubbles in the bottle. So method champenois is the traditional way of making champagne. It's been done in France and around the world for many hundreds of years. And that's how we continue to do it. So in that tradition. And yeah, and then it's disgorged, which is where, you know, all the sediment, we pop all the sediment out of the bottle and top it up and put a cork in it and then release it to you guys. So yeah, I think this one is, I mean, I think I've said this every year and my tasting notes might say this, but I think this is my favorite vintage of this so far. It's so delicious. But I think I said that last year and the year before. So I don't know if you can count on that because it's so good every time. So this wine always gets really like bright strawberry, like lots of orange zest, some orange blossom, really pretty, really pure fruit. Yeah, and I love it. I love the color too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is one that we from the very beginning struggled because we had just a small amount of Grenache on the property. So it goes into the trace that we'll also be tasting. We wanted to have a standalone Grenache on a regular basis. And then we also made sparkling Grenache. So our case production has always been relatively small compared to the Blanc de Blanc and the Rosé of Syrah sparkling. So part of our replant was so that we could increase production on this, but we sell out every year, well before the end of the year. And these are sparklings that we're making that are very untypical of sparklings. Generally, it's Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier for sparklings, and we're using Rhone varietals. So, you know, it's really important that Ashley picks them at the right time, the right flavor to make these, and they're really unique. And we actually had some awards for this one, and it was selected as one of the top 10 hot brands by one of the industry magazines in 2017. So that's kind of put this particular one on the map, and we're really proud of it and proud of Ashley for what she does. Does anybody have any questions about it or thoughts, or what do they taste?
He asked me what I taste in the wine. I said bubbly. You know, it fills your whole mouth with crispness. It's really crisp, and the flavor stays in your mouth.
Making Vicky happy, honey.
Well, to me it does. I normally don't drink this, to be honest with you.
I was surprised I saw you sipping it, Marge.
Yeah, I normally don't drink this, but got to try stuff every now and then, you know, taste change, but it's very, very delightful. I like it. I like it.
It's very light. It's very enjoyable. It's very
Yeah.
beautiful. And I don't, unfortunately, have the palate that picks out all those wondrous things that you talk about. All you winemakers are poets, and you always write these incredible descriptions of what the wine smells like, what the wine tastes like. And my theory is really down to simple. I like it, I drink it, to heck with the rest of it. So.
That's me too, George.
Love it, George.
George, I got to tell you, I don't have that option. I've got to drink it, whether I like it or not, because it's my wine. You know?
Hey, listen, we just like good stuff.
Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
Delicious. I love it.
Oh, thank you. The
You like it?
wine is very subjective. You know, it comes from your own experience and all the things that you have smelled and tasted in your life. So we all have a little bit different of palates and a little bit different experience. So even though I tell you what it tastes like to me, I said this on a Zoom recently, but you know, like I have memories from like middle school and like certain smelling chapstick and things. And like when I smell wine, sometimes those come to my mind, but they're very different for other people. So, you know, my descriptors are a suggestion, but wine is, you know, meant to either be enjoyed by each individual palate or just to be drunk and not even thought about, you know, like you don't have to think too hard about it, I don't think. So
So
how
Ashley,
about
what do you
over
like
in
to pair this
Minnesota?
with?
How is it tasting?
Delicious.
It's delicious.
Very good. We like that it's dry and really crisp, like someone said. So good.
Excellent. Vicki, you were saying something.
Oh, I was going to ask what do you like to pair with this?
Me? Are you asking me?
Anybody who's tried it with food.
That'd be Ashley.
Well, Ashley tries everything.
Tried it with lots of food. But I'll let somebody else answer.
You know, I recently had it was like a goat cheese tartlet with a little bit of quince paste on top. So it's got the sweetness, kind of the saltiness of the goat cheese and the tart with the Grenache. It just kind of tied everything together on there, just the freshness, the raspberry. And that's the most recent thing I've had. I've had it with a lot of stuff, but I like cheese and sweet. Anything kind of sweet on there really plays up really well, or spicy food too. That's like my two ends, like a cheesy and sweet, or spicy for me. That's kind of what I tend to go with.
Oh, that sounds good. Sounds good, Haas.
Yeah, we've got it paired out with some spicy chicken tinga tacos. So.
Oh,
Ooh. All right.
Excellent.
That sounds good.
Okay, I'm getting hungry.
How long does it take to get to Minnesota?
Driving or flying?
A 5-hour flight from San Francisco to here.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to make it in time for dinner.
So why don't we move on to the 2019 Chardonnay?
We'll have more of this.
Okay.
We're almost there to the rest.
Yeah, almost to the red.
So Teresa, what was in your shipment?
We had 2 Zinfandels and 2 traces, so 2 of each red.
Okay.
So you have to drink twice as much red while we're tasting the red.
Exactly. That was our theory.
I think that's a good theory.
I'm concerned you've got 2 traces. That's going to take my supply down.
And Cindy, what was in yours?
We have we're bubbles, so it's
okay. So
I
you
haven't them up yet. So this was a sparkling Grenache I already had actually. So
okay. We won't tell anybody.
And I wasn't able to come pick up yet.
And then George and Marge, what was in yours?
Well, we've been on just the bubbling. So we got the Syrah and the Grenache. And then I spoke to my good friend up there with his sweet cheese and jam. And we switched it around to get some of the red sent down because I can't have a wine with Mike without having Trez. So
good choice, George.
We're going to get a bigger variety.
Yeah.
Thank you, Haas, for making that happen.
We got to make it happen for sure.
And then Minnesota, what was in your shipment?
Well, we're lucky we got together and did a little potluck with our friends, the Grenache, who are also members now after our last tasting.
That's right.
Yep.
We have
the Teens Block Zinfandel. We got the Trace and more Verde. I like that. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, the Movedra. Yep.
Yeah, sorry. My apologies.
Oh yeah, that is a good wine. I love that wine.
And then Venus picked up the sparkling Grenache and
reds.
And
we just didn't have the Chardonnay, but they did. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I have a question for Vicki. Is there a wine you don't like?
No.
Is that a trick question?
But you know, somebody did ask me what my favorite one was, right? And I told them that I couldn't answer that question because you have to ask me what is my favorite wine with. So like with Soul or with my best friends or with my college roommates or on a Tuesday afternoon or at a barbecue. I can answer that, but I can't just answer what's my favorite.
With your husband?
With my husband, I can answer that.
What is it?
Blanc de Blanc.
Blanc de Blanc.
I was going to say that, Vicki. I knew you'd say that.
You did? And if only you drink it all.
And I always say my favorite is the one that's in my glass.
Yes.
Yeah,
Good choice.
I'll agree to that.
Yep, there you go.
Okay. Cheers to that. Onward and upward, Ashley.
All right. Chardonnay.
So this is our 2019 Chardonnay. As I said, Chardonnay, or 2019 was a warmer vintage for everything. So our Chardonnay in 2019 actually came from the block that we pick our sparkling from, which is a Wente clone block. It was handpicked at about 7 o'clock in the morning and brought into the winery, and we put all the whole clusters straight into the press. And so we squeeze all of the juice out of the berries, and all the juice goes to straight to barrels. So neutral oak barrels, and they ferment for about 3 weeks. 2019 was all native fermented, so that means that the yeast that fermented all the juice into wine all came from the skins of the grapes, so all from our vineyard. So we didn't add any commercial yeast to it. After that, the wine went through malolactic fermentation in barrel also, so stayed on the lees, on the primary lees, and then was bottled after 11 months. So that was the first time it was racked, when it was when it went to bottle, or went to tank to be bottled. So
No.
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't know if anybody has Chardonnay in their glass, so I don't know if we should talk about it too much. Besides us, the 4 of us, I guess, or 5 of us.
We're just giving them a preview for the spring wines and summer wines, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So the Chardonnay is super delicious, really bright, stone fruit flavors, really unctuous, like rich. It has lots of depth. It has a little bit of minerality on the palate. It finishes really clean. It's got nice acidity, but I really like the layers of texture on this wine. So because it's neutral oak fermented, you really get the purity of the fruit. You don't get a lot of oak flavors muddling it up, but you still, using neutral oak as basically a storage vessel and fermentation vessel lets you have this slow micro-oxygenation of the wine. So oxygen does change wine, which is intentional. And so it sort of develops all of these flavors and sort of comes together because of that oxygen without any of the oak flavors. So it does make a really, really beautiful finished wine that, isn't oaky or overbearing for sure. So it's definitely a more food-friendly wine than a lot of California Chardonnays. Pairs really well with a variety of things. I like it with seafood quite a lot. That's usually my go-to pairing, but I also think it goes really well with even spring vegetables or spring salads or light pastas. It's a really good wine for all the foods you want to eat right now. Here, especially when it's 80 degrees. So.
We like to have it with sol picada, but Mike makes a clam linguine that has lemon zest in it, right? So it's a really bright, and I can see Haas saying, "Yep, that would work." It goes beautifully with this Chardonnay.
Or seafood paella is really good
too.
Yeah. The thing I love about it is when you take it right out of the refrigerator, it's still really chilled. So it's the perfect summer wine, but as the temperature cools down, you start to get all these different aromatics, and it hits your palate completely different. But I think I would like to pair this with a lounge chair by the pool.
Whoa. I know most of your pairings don't involve food, Robert.
Yeah, they just involve glass and pools, and porch swing.
Yeah.
Is there any angel share being in barrels for you guys?
Say that again, Rob.
Any angel share? Are you seeing some evaporation, the concentration of flavors as a
result? So we lose about a bottle of wine per barrel per month.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And the barrels are what, like 53 gallons?
A Burgundy barrel is 60 gallons, and a Bordeaux shaped barrel is 59 gallons. So it doesn't really matter which shape, they just are just manufactured differently basically. But yeah, so between 59 and 60 gallons, 225 liters or 228 liters. And we do lose about a liter almost every month from topping. So we do fill up the barrels every 3 to 4 weeks, top them up so that they're not getting too much oxygen exposure through the cork, just through the wood.
Okay.
And I'm not in the cellar.
What?
Yeah. So you're not an angel.
Yeah.
I'm not the reason for the loss in the barrels.
Yeah.
You got to check the security cameras, Ashley. In there.
Yeah. I'll just check them over there. All right.
All right.
Any questions? Any other questions about the Chardonnay or anything so far?
My question will be for John when I come up for a tasting. It's going to be there so I can taste it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The Chardonnay will be. We'll have the Chardonnay for you for sure.
Absolutely.
And I think it's
we might be up next month. We're not sure.
Oh,
George, the hard part is tasting through the mask. I don't know how they do it down there, but they require masks. So what can I say?
We go like this and put it back on.
okay.
Easy peasy.
I have to send you a cartoon I saw about the perfect way to wear a double mask.
Oh, yeah.
So he has it on, and then he opens his mouth, and it opens. Like that.
Yeah, it's really cute. Like a clam shell.
So I'll have to find that and send it up to
It's
you
cute.
because
That'd be great.
that's perfect. Either that or we have to use a straw, which is not my favorite way to drink wine.
No.
No.
no, mine either.
Did I get a glass?
No, I don't have to.
Okay. So let's move on to the trace.
Yeah.
You're ready. So I think most of you know by now, but the traces are GSM blend. So it's Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre. Again, all grown right on our property. And this is our like little slice of Rhone right in Dry Creek Valley. So the blend usually stays about the same. We do try to make it the same, although it has varied from year to year, but it's we try to make it a third, a third, a third. And that's just to let each varietal sort of have a big showcase in the final wine. And they sort of all lend something to it. So on the nose, I always get the orange rind from the Grenache. And then on the palate, I get these bright cherry tones from the Mourvedre. And then all the structure and the finish really comes from the Syrah. The 2019, like I said, was a warmer year, bigger, bolder flavors. I get a lot more earth tones. This is a bigger wine. It'll age a little bit longer. I still get really pretty fruit though, even though it is a bigger wine. So it's definitely a fun one. And this is a good, like where you can see, winemakers love to blend. This is a good showcase for that. And it's a good showcase to show you, that vintage does change the wine quite a bit. So it's kind of fun to taste vintage to vintage of this wine. And I think this is Mike's favorite wine, right?
It is. And
the three blends.
Say again?
Please repeat the three blends to make the trace.
Oh, yeah, it's Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre.
Okay. It is pretty big.
Yeah, it's a bigger wine. So, that just comes from the vintage, of course. The Syrah is definitely giving it some oomph there. But I will say that typically our Mourvedre is pretty delicate. Mourvedre is a thick-skinned varietal. It's usually known to have a lot of tannins, but ours doesn't always have like these big, bold tannins. But this vintage, it definitely did. It definitely sort of brought those around. And I think that's adding to the sort of, big characters of this wine. So I think it's still tasting good. It's definitely a wine. I mean, I pair all my wines with food. because I just like to eat. But this is definitely a wine to have with food. And I also think it'll age even longer than our typical trace blends, which is kind of exciting because they're normally like a little earlier to drink than some of our other reds. And this one, I think you could lay down a little while and it would still be delicious in a few years.
How long?
About a week here.
Yeah, they're not going to last in Mike and Vicky's, but you know, you can lay it down for like up to 5 years, I'd say, maybe a little bit longer, depending on, you know, how good of self-control and temperature control you have.
5 years.
Well, that's what you do in aging. You lose that tannin structure, so it just kind of starts to round itself out. And there's kind of that balance point where you lose more of those bright fruit characteristics and the tannin. So then you start to get more of the darker fruits and less tannin structure. But I still think this is really an exceptional GSM. So it's, you know, very similar to what you would find for a Chateauneuf du Pape, which really put these blends on the map.
So I'm curious to know if everybody on the call has tasted all of the 3 components separately. Yes, you're saying yeah. No, have you, George?
Yes.
Mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have.
Yes, I know. No, you have.
That's a given, Mike.
And surprisingly, Vicki, I'm not a Grenache person. I generally don't care for Grenache, but when you blend these, they're awesome, I think.
Yeah.
And the Mevet comes through on it quite a bit. So
yeah.
Compliments to the chef.
Yeah, what I like about this too is the tannin is there, but it's not a heavy that it impairs you to be able to taste the fruit. It's really good. Very good.
That's the Amista style and Ashley style.
Would you say this wine was brooding?
I'm brooding.
I wrote that in my tasting notes the first time, but apparently it didn't make the final draft. They cut it out. It got cut out. I think it's brooding. I dumped mine out and put Zin in my glass, but I thought it was brooding. I stand by it.
If you say that, then it's okay.
But what does Sacramento say?
It's like darker and like moodier than it usually is, you know?
I would just say that I now like this probably my best wine for drinking with almost anything. As I get older, my palate kind of has gotten less sensitive, and this wine seems to go with almost everything. I wouldn't drink it with Sol, but because I've got a real nice sparkling or a Chardonnay, but this wine seems to be just the middle of the ground for everything. And Vicki occasionally throws us in to Catch Me or Cab, but this one I really like.
Well, it is true that I always say this is the best wine to take to a hostess, as a hostess gift or to a party, because it kind of is a crowd pleaser. It's not a big tannic wine. It's not an unusual thing. It just is really, really delicious, and it goes with lots of things.
We agree.
Yeah, no, it was great, and we've had the we've had the Syrah, Mourvedre, and Grenache before in different shipments, and so and the Trace as well. So love the Trace, love them together. I'm definitely can taste that Syrah though for sure.
Yeah.
Love it.
Good.
And so we talked about the other night, maybe our generalizing, which is hard because there's so many different regions and every year is so different, but love Syrah. So the Syrah element in this is great.
Do you like cooler climate or warm climate, like the blueberry dark fruit, or like more red fruit?
I think we like the variety, getting things from all over the place and different tastes and enjoying it and talking about it. So yeah, all over the place.
Yeah, because Syrah is one of my favorite grapes too. Like I just like going finding the dry creek and then pairing it up against Australia, the Syrah,
Yeah.
going here, going there, just kind of just seeing a little bit of everything. It's awesome. It's one of my.
Yeah.
That's what I love about these varietals is that they really do take on the terroir of where they're being grown. And then it's also the magic of the winemaker. Each winemaker has their own different style, from, you know, oak regiments to neutral to stainless steel to new barrels. It's really fascinating. And for me, my palate, I love what Ashley does with our wines.
Mm-hmm.
Syrah is quite famous here. We replanted Syrah when we got the vineyard after 2 years, and at that time Syrah was supposed to be the next big grape. And then, what is the name of that movie?
Sideways.
And Syrah went, and everybody was going for Pinot. Well,
Yeah.
I tell them I've got Syrah and I don't need Pinot.
You're sticking to it.
Great story.
Well, in Dry Creek Valley, it's really known for Zinfandel and Sauvignon Blancs.
Yeah.
But, you know, there are areas that have really become great growing areas for Rhone varietals, and that's what we've focused on. And we've become known for all the Rhones that we grow, sparkling and still. So we kind of have this little slice of uniqueness in a Zinfandel and Sauvignon Blanc region.
Well, speaking of Zinfandel.
Here we go.
It's a start Zinfandel. So it's the only wine of the day that doesn't come from our property. So most of our wines come from our estate, except for our Zin and Cab. We buy that fruit just because, like Robert said, you know, our property isn't quite suited to those two varietals. So we buy from some neighbors. This comes from the Cyanese, which are a grape growing family that have started growing grapes in Dry Creek Valley in the early 1900s. Our block was planted in 1971, so Jean's block. So it is on a wire. It's not head trained, but it's like the next closest thing to being head trained vines. So the 2019 Zin, it's definitely, because of that, you know, riper, warmer year, I get a lot of baking spice notes. And it's actually, it feels a little bit more delicate on the tongue and on the palate. It's a really pretty wine. And we were saying before everybody came on the call that, you know, the 18 was like this big, jammy, bold fruit bomb. And the 19, you know, it's another fun, like vintage to vintage comparison. The 19 is definitely more like baking spices and, you know, just a little bit different style of wine. And, you know, I personally, I like this one so much because it does pair quite well with food, and kind of goes with everything. So yeah, to make our Zinfandel, we handpick the clusters and we destem them. We don't crush them. And then they go into an open top tank and we cold soak. So that means we turn the temperature down on the tank and just let all of the color pigments be extracted from the skins of the grapes into the juice for about 5 days. And then it ferments. So it starts fermentation and that takes about, a week or two. And then we press it off and it goes to barrels. And this wine actually this particular vintage actually stayed in barrel for about 11 months. So, we bottled it in the same time frame as the Chardonnay. So it didn't get super long time in barrel. But yeah, I think it's really pretty. I'm excited. And I think this one, I'm curious to taste it, in 6 months too, because it keeps evolving and getting better and coming into its own. So it's pretty delicious.
Yeah, it's very light. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
This is a vineyard site that Ashley's been working with for many years. This is actually her, 2021 will be your 12th harvest with us.
Wow, nice.
It'll be my 11th harvest.
Your 11th harvest, okay. And this particular block, the Saini family, we've been sourcing fruit from them since the very beginning.
2005.
Yeah, so long-term relationship, and this vineyard site, as it continues to evolve and grow and age, it pulls out so many different characteristics, and I love the vintage variation of it, because you really get a true sense of what's happening with the vines as they mature, and also the climate and the temperature changes each year.
Is that what accounts for the difference between, like you said, Ashley, this one being a little bit more delicate and the other one being like bigger, I think, jammier? Yeah, that jammier, that was it. Is it the temperature? Just that kind of.
It's temperature, it's definitely weather, it's also water. Vines are very sensitive to stress. And so when they have less water, they just produce different characters. They put different characters into the fruit that they are producing. So, it's a combination of factors, but it's definitely, there's a huge vintage to vintage variation in most years. And some things are, a little bit less affected, some varietals, or you can, you put your stamp on it so much winemaking wise with barrels or, stylistic choices that you don't get quite as much variation. But that's not what we do. We like to let each vintage and each varietal sort of speak for itself. So they're like a little snapshot of that moment in time. And so these definitely are, and that's where you get a lot of variation from vintage to vintage, especially in some of those thinner skin varietals like the Zinfandel. So
that's what I was going to ask, Ashley. Of all the wines that we make, which one do you think is the most affected by the vintage?
I mean, I think that they all are. They just are like in the beginning, but I don't know that there's one that's more affected than others, but like, Chardonnay is a little more stylistic because you like put it through malolactic and you keep it in neutral oak. Rosé doesn't matter quite as much. Sparklings do, as we've tasted, in our dosage trials, the acidity level definitely will change vintage to vintage, but a little less so on the flavor profile. The Syrah, I think, is maybe the one that shows its colors the most from vintage to vintage. You can either get that like really like meaty, like bacony Syrah in a colder year, or you can get that like big, jammy, ripe California Syrah in a hot year. So they can be very different. And then the other varietals sort of fall between that spectrum.
Kind of like the 2016 that has been coined the breakfast wine because of the bacon notes.
Yeah.
Bacon.
I don't know if I just want to ask. I don't know if but does this, because I know the 18 had a little bit of new French oak. Does this one have it?
It does. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
it has 25% new oak.
A man with a palate.
Yeah.
I just read the tasting notes, the 18 ones.
He stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Hey.
There you go.
For those of you that know that that marketing campaign.
As a question, as a salesperson, the answer truly is as much as you can. But how many bottles should you really buy? And is it kind of like one for now, one for 6 months from now, one for like 3 years or 5 years from now? Is there a methodology to enjoy your wine?
Yes, all of the above.
Well, everyone does it a little bit differently. So you first have to think about how you drink. Like, what do you like in a wine? So Robert said this earlier, but when you drink the wine a little bit younger, it tends to be a little bit bolder in fruit. Although there is sort of this like down period and fruity character, and then like up period and then down period again. But then if you like a wine to be, come together a little bit more, be a little more, what's the word? Like lower in tannin, sort of softer, more fleshed out, then maybe you like to let a wine sit. But I think it's always good also to, if you are curious about aging wines, to ask the winery, because there are some varietals like, our Grenache or our 2018 Mourvedre, like I wouldn't age those because they're really good right now. They were unfiltered. They're just like, they're ready to drink. They're meant to be like fruit driven and, drunk right now. And like the 18 Zinfandel, that's like really, really fruity. Like I wouldn't age that, drink it as it's meant to be. But then there are the wines and the vintages that, you can definitely just hold on to a little bit more. But I would say, yeah, first know how you like to drink and then find out from the winery what they recommend. And then from there, you can do some little of your own trials, like open a bottle every 6 months or once a year, buy 6 bottles of something and do it really specifically, like put a reminder in your calendar and taste and just for your own knowledge, see how a wine evolves and make your own little notes, even if your palate, like your wording isn't perfect or whatever. But that's how winemakers do it. And it does show you a lot. It shows you how a wine ages and how a wine evolves. And remember that, wines are living and breathing. So that cork in the wine, like that is a place for gas exchange. So oxygen is coming into the bottle, gases are leaving the bottle, and that's changing the wine. Oxygen binds with many, many different compounds in wine in different ways, and different compounds in wine combine together over time. So wine really, truly does age from oxygen. And so, you'll get a very different wine from day one than you will 5, 10, 15 years down the road. All wines might not hold up to that, but, if you find something you like and it has a bit of tannin or a bit of acid, you could sort of see how it goes.
Cool.
I love that.
I would just make one comment, Ashley. Instead of 6 bottles, put a case away.
I'm a salesman. The answer is always more.
Yeah, no, it's 3 for now, 3 for when you're sharing it, and 3 after that.
Yeah.
Oh, we have friends here.
That's right.
Is to have a wine tasting of the wines from year to year. Have a group of people over who enjoy wine, who really enjoy wine, and pair it with
different vintages.
Yeah, different vintages and different cheeses and what have you to go with it. And it is a lot of fun. People, they never guess it's the same wine. Never guess it's the same wine. It's a lot of fun.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've done that.
It's so important that we share these experiences with friends.
Nothing we can do. We have a son coming in.
Yeah.
It's going to destroy our video. So maybe we look better. I'm not sure.
Yeah, a lot better.
Look like ghosts.
Golden hour.
Oh, there you go. Works for me.
Well, Mike, this is my corporate office now. My front room since last March. So
yeah.
Really?
Yes, I have.
We have also been strangers to the world. We only go out for shots.
No, we go out for virtual tastings.
And virtual tastings.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yep.
I know.
But we hope to open up soon because I think Robert's got a shot. Ashley, have you gotten your first?
I got my first second one next
week. Haas, have you?
I have not. I haven't been able to get it scheduled. I know. Stay away.
That's great.
I took a tequila shot yesterday from National Margarita Day.
Okay.
Well, okay.
From you. So I've been through 2, and so now I'm ready to take off the mask, and I'll be my evil self.
Yeah, my second will be on Thursday.
All right.
Mike, you and I are older folk.
Yeah, I know it. I hate to admit it.
There are just some perks of being older, finally.
Finally.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll all get through this. And I do have to say that this helps a little bit.
Absolutely, it does.
So this comment's directed to Robert because he knows who I'm talking about. So we had margaritas to start, and we've had a glass for each round. So we've got 5 glasses per person sitting here. So we kind of grabbed them together and did a nice little flex shot for our daughter, who's 21. Say, you know what, amateur, you know.
Oh, that's awesome. So actually, just for everybody, Rob and Katie Keeler are longtime friends of mine when I lived in San Diego, and I was in their wedding.
Wow.
27 years, buddy.
27 years.
Wow.
Wow.
And Robert, you were the ring bearer. Is that what you were? The ring bearer?
I was the ring bearer. Yeah, absolutely.
How cute.
No, I'm the oldest of the 3 of us.
Okay.
Super nice.
All right. Do you guys have any more questions about any of the wines?
Say again, Ashley.
What?
Say again.
Oh, any more questions about any of the wines?
I have a question. It's not about the Jean's Block that you're tasting that I'm looking forward to tasting once I get over there. But we have a Jean's Block in our wine fridge that's from 2015. Do you think that's
delicious? I'll trade you.
That one is amazing.
I think that's what he's saying. Don't get rid of it.
Right now, it's really delicious.
You put it on eBay, you'll get way more than what you.
I would recommend preparing a meal that will work with it and have a wonderful evening drinking that delicious wine. I wouldn't sell it. I wouldn't do anything. I would just drink it.
Don't even give it to Haas.
No, Haas could find his own.
Oh, wait, hold on just a second. Cindy, why don't you private message me?
But you know,
I think, you know, straight across the board, the 2015s, they had this really predominant on the nose sandalwood characteristics. It's sensational.
great? Look forward to that then.
It's a good thing your daughter came all this way to visit you.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Enjoy it.
Thank you. She'll
So
have to
where,
though.
Yeah.
where have you been?
Oh, I live in Southern California, but I just came up to Northern California to visit.
Excellent. Where about in SoCal?
Upland. It's like in the Inland Empire. We're about 30 miles east of LA.
Yep. Okay.
Oh.
Great.
make sure
Glad to have you
she
back
knows
up
before
in
she leaves.
Northern California. Well, if there aren't any more questions, I just want to say that this was awesome to be able to share this time with all of you and near and far, and look forward to the point in time that the Keelers and can come out from Minnesota to see us, and everybody else close by that you can. What's
George,
up?
come up and see us.
George and Marge can come up and see us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, are you guys actually tasting outside now?
We are.
We are. Tasting room is open. We pre-COVID,
Beautiful.
we started a construction project of replacing the outdoor tent with a new structure so there's an outdoor patio, concrete, with this amazing structure that has a solar system on it, 18 kilowatt system that powers the tasting room, our pumps, and Vicky and Mike's house.
Nice.
That's really an amazing experience out there. So we call it our solar powered patio.
There you go.
And you know, we have social distanced tasting, and people love it. We've just been overwhelmed with the support of people coming out and being with us and feeling comfortable. And
Robert, do they need a reservation?
because of COVID protocol, we are reservation only, but we can generally get people in same day. Just, I suggest that you let us know ahead of time.
Unless it's a weekend. Weekends are crazy, but.
Yeah, weekends we've actually been completely booked. But I know somebody who's on this Zoom call that can probably squeeze you in. And his name is Oz.
You know, the deal with weekends is then you're always out there with all that rabble, and it's just not worth it. I mean, we want to be out there with the real honest to God connoisseurs that don't work for a living. So they can work weekends. I mean, during the week.
Well, those are the weekday reservations.
Come see us on Tuesday.
Also, Sunday, if you were to choose, Sunday's always a lot more mellow for sure.
So it's 7 days a week though, right?
Yes.
7 days a week. Yep.
Yeah, so none of you are taking any time off except Mike. And he's
I'm not taking time off. I work 24 hours.
Yes, I know. A year.
And now that
a year. I don't know which.
Now that you have your second shot, you can go every day, 7 days a week.
Yes, that's right.
Mike, I'm gonna turn over the hat to you. You can start taking care of everybody down there.
My hat. My hat. I'm sorry. I don't have a hat.
Well, thank you, Ashley. That was
Ashley, you did a nice
great.
job.
Ashley,
thank you.
Round of applause.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
all.
good to see everyone.
Nice.
We look forward when we can all gather together again.
Me too.
George, we look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, I think, just so you know, I think early March, we're going to be up in Nevada and then up over the hill to Sonoma. So it looks like we'll be coming up in the next few weeks.
Great.
All right.
Excellent.
Great.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. And to the rest of you, hope it's
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank
you.
Stay well.
You
We
too.
look forward to seeing you again.